Have you ever been drawn to watch a completely unfamiliar movie just by hearing fragments of the soundtrack? If so, you are not alone. I have watched many foreign language movies that I would otherwise have never really bothered with, just based on catching bits and pieces of a movie theme playing during the scene. To be frank, that is likely not a great way to find good cinema. After all, I have suffered through my fair share of mediocre movies. On the off chance that the great soundtrack or film score is indicative of the movie's quality, but ultimately isn't so. However, it is certainly possible for all the stars to align, whereby a great movie is complemented by an amazing soundtrack. So the first time that ever happened for me was catching an Italian movie that was aired on a local broadcasting channel that supported the arts. So Channel 12 may be long defunct, but its efforts of promoting the arts have left lasting impact. Without it, Singaporeans would probably have never been exposed to artistic films that they may have never seek out in the first place. So in any case, the aforementioned Italian movie is Giuseppe Tornatore's Cinema Paradiso. His Cinema Paradiso was a 1988 movie written and directed by Giuseppe Tornatore, but was only shown internationally in a shortened version in 1989. It is now considered one of the greatest films of all time and had won an Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film. During its initial run, some critics had felt that the movie was way too sentimental. Perhaps the portrayal of a post-war Sicily was too idyllic for their collective taste, but time has proven these critics wrong. After all, not every movie has to be a cerebral thought experiment, and seriously, how many of those movies are still being remembered today? The film describes the unlikely friendship between the young boy Salvatore, or Toto for short, and his mentor, the cinema projectionist Alfredo, as well as the ill-fated love between Toto and Elena, the daughter of a wealthy banker. But the real love affair on display here is the love for the medium of cinema. Throughout the movie, we saw the evolution of cinema in Sicily, from the rampant censorship by the local priests in the early days, to the cinema's subsequent sexual liberalizations and ultimate decline of the theatre in the small town. Cinema Paradiso is particularly resonant today. After all, I wonder if the next generation may even know what a cinema hall is, seeing how quickly they are going out of business now. So the movie is really steeped in nostalgia, and it reminds me of a bygone era that will probably be lost in time. So as a kid, Toto collected strips of films that had been cut out of the movies like Tragic Possessions due to his family's poverty. In some way, it also reminded me of my own childhood when I used to collect trading cards and stickers, and holding on to them like treasures despite their lack of actual monetary value. So what do kids collect these days? I truly have no idea. So when an adult Toto returned home to attend Alfredo's funeral, he found an old film footage of Elena and was deeply moved by the old images of his first love. This reminded me of an earlier time when precious moments are captured in old photo albums and home movies. So today there are a million apps that help to store images, and it costs almost nothing to store these images. Yet the deluge of images that most people have these days likely mean little to them beyond, say, brand building. I mean, sure, tens of thousands of strangers may view this picture and short movie clips, but do these carefully crafted skits or pictures means anything to the people who make them? Somehow, I don't think it means much beyond, say, monetization. Cinema Paradiso is about a time when a blown up image from a projector on a town wall can bring so much joy to so many people. So today, as youths embrace short form videos that are consumed on the phones, the old school cinema is on life support. Okay, but enough about the depressing stuff, I suppose. Let's get into the soundtrack. The central theme of Cinema Paradiso is the romantic nostalgia of a simpler time. To that end, the scenes and cinematography of the film is greatly enhanced by the score that was composed by the Italian maestro Ennio Morricone. So prior to Cinema Paradiso, Morricone was most well known for his many collaborations with Sergio Leone and created the template of the soundtrack for the spaghetti western. Chances are, even if you have never seen a spaghetti western, you will be familiar with the whistling in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Cinema Paradiso was a very different type of movie compared to the spaghetti western, but Morricone had already composed for a gazillion soundtracks by that point in time, so I imagine it was not a great challenge for him. Nevertheless, this particular soundtrack was very special. It marked the first collaboration between Ennio Morricone and his son Andre Morricone, who contributed the love theme of Toto and Elena. The collaboration almost paralleled the relationship between Alfredo and Toto in the movie, in which Alfredo passed on his love for the movies to the younger Toto. Beyond the tender and beautiful love theme, the soundtrack has many other highlights. Ennio Morricone painted the perfect idyllic small town of life with the opening theme of the same name. Nostalgia and sadness is evoked at once while thinking about her. While Toto's childhood innocence in the war-torn Sicily is wonderfully encapsulated in both childhood and manhood and first youth. The ferocity of a disastrous fire is portrayed vividly with Cinema on Fire. Toto and Alfredo and Projection for Two are both themes relating to the friendship between Alfredo and Toto. With the former playing out during happier times, while the latter was featured in the aftermath of the disastrous fire. Meanwhile, from American sex appeal to the first Fellini, is a playful theme that accompanies the passage of time and highlights the changes of the film industry as well as audience during the period. At about 40 minutes, the soundtrack for Cinema Paradiso is relatively short. But in spite of its brevity, there is not a single wasted note here. Every single theme is so intricately tied to a specific scene that it can help you instantly recall the character's journey during the high and low points of their lives. It is, in my opinion, an instant classic that has stood the test of time. Giuseppe Tornatore and Ennio Morricone would further collaborate on other movies, including landmarks such as 2000's Malena and 1998's The Legend of 1900. However, for most people, the highlights of their collaboration would be where it all began, that is Cinema Paradiso. So I guess the saying is true, you always remember your first and will always have fond memories of that. Giuseppe Tornatore also went on to make a documentary about Morricone, simply titled Ennio. I haven't watched it myself, but I have heard many good things about it, and will be tracking down a copy of the DVD or Blu-ray to learn more about the great Italian maestro. So obviously, if you have not watched Cinema Paradiso, you should. I would suggest watching the original cut of the movie and not the director's cut on your first go. The amazing soundtrack for the movie can also be found on various streaming websites, including Spotify and YouTube. So once again, thank you for listening.